When you were talking yesterday, you mentioned again the maturity that you've talked about throughout training camp, preseason, et cetera. Is that a mindset? Do you feel like this team's mentality is where it should be at this point in the season?
Not necessarily. I think the thing that I'm struggling with more so than anything else is just, we have to play the schemes the way they're designed. They're set up a specific way, and there's an accountability to it. You have to do your job, and you have to be mature enough to handle that situation, circumstances. And sometimes we get to the point where we want to try and do more than we have to.
And I know you've been big on practices, playing tempo, playing fast. Have they been to your satisfaction throughout the weeks?
Yeah, the tempo is not the problem. Practicing fast is not the problem. Again, it's about our execution, and again, us as coaches too. We got to help out. We've got to make sure we're putting them in position to have success. And we all make mistakes. We all make decisions. I made a couple of decisions yesterday, and both of them backfired on us too. I threw the flag when I disagreed. I thought that we had got the first down, and I threw the flag when I thought we could get a 4th and 1. So those are on me.
Thanks, Ron.
Hey, Ron, back in the before the season started, you talked about how when you're trying to grade or judge preseason performances, or maybe even some in training camp, that it's a little bit tricky at times because these circumstances don't always have consequences in those moments. And I'm just wondering, what have you kind of seen for some players that maybe you were thinking about in those terms so far through these first 3 games?
Well, I'd like to say, I think some of us are playing a little cautious. We don't want to make mistakes, so we allow things to happen in front of us. I think some of us are trying too hard to make something happen, and that's costing us. And again, it's really just, do your job, put yourself in position, because again, I've said this, the play doesn't care who makes it. Okay, there's plays out there to be made, and if where you're supposed to be, you get a chance to make those plays.
And then to specifically at safety, you again before the season, you talked about the 3 guys at the top in particular. You kind of can mix and match them, and you've obviously used different combinations. The snap count has kind of fluctuated a bit over these first 3 weeks. Just curious where you are with this group right now.
I kind of thought those 3 guys played pretty well individually. I thought those guys made some plays, and there's a couple things that they still got to work out in terms of understanding the overall scheme, but they for the most part put themselves into some good positions. I really like what we got from Cam, watching him get close into the box and doing some of those things. I thought Bobby gave us a couple of plays out of the secondary as it landed. I thought Landon did a nice job a couple of times coming down out on the edge of the box and made some really nice tackles and some nice plays. I think the 3 of those guys are really kind of getting it together. If you think for the fact that really, Landon missed most of last year with the injury, and Bobby's new to what we're doing, I think those 3 guys are a pretty solid group.
Thank you.
Hey, Ron, when you talk about like guys sometimes, not doing their assignments, do you see that early in game, or is that when it starts to get away from you that they're getting away from what they do?
Well, you see it every now and then at the beginning. You see it now sometimes when they're pressing and they want to make a play. And again, it's just, that's the hard part. You don't want to fault a guy for trying, but you also want to make sure you understand just how important it is to do your job and be accountable.
And then how do you feel that Chase has been playing and having progressed from last year when there's obviously a lot more expectations for him now?
Yeah, and that's the hard part for him is the expectations are high and he's trying to make things happen. But, he's had some really good moments. I believe he had a pretty good pressure rate yesterday and had a couple of chances at some pretty good plays. But, it's just one of those things that he gets a little extra attention. And, with a chipper to his side or the protection turning towards him, and he's just going to have to learn to continue to cope with it. But at the same time, he's also got to understand what his strengths are and really attack it with those strengths, because he can be such a disruptive player.
With the being anxious about trying to make plays, you've mentioned that now a few times this year. How do you get the guys to listen and to stop doing that? I mean, you've had evidence of enough bad tape, so why do you think they're still trying to do so?
Because they want to win. And I think the thing they have to understand is that, doing things the right way, giving yourself a chance by playing within the framework, it creates the opportunities that they want. And that's hard. It's hard to feel right now, hard to see. But again, it's just, it's one of those things. To me, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. We'll continue to work at it. We know the situation, the circumstances, what we feel we need to correct, who we need to correct, and what we think works best with these guys. And we'll get those things worked out.
And looking ahead, Curtis Samuel is eligible to come off of the IR for this game. What do you anticipate this week in terms of practice for him?
We'll see how it goes on Wednesday. That's the thing that we're pretty excited as a group. I think the offensive coaches are pretty fired up to see exactly where he is. And if he has a good day Wednesday, we'll progress and go forward.
Hey, Ron. Just curious about your front four and getting pressure. You guys were very effective there last year, and it seems like you've been close a couple of times there. Is there anything that you'd like them to do differently going forward, or what do you think about kind of?
One of the things that we really kind of saw on tape this past Sunday was the rush wasn't as coordinated as it needed to be. We had a couple instances where when Duran would win, and he, to whichever side he was with the end, he'd win, but unfortunately the end wasn't coordinated with him. He did a nice up and under move and got himself back inside. We had the end wash around to the outside. A couple of times when the end went to the outside, Durand made a nice outside move as well. So we had two guys outside, and again, it's one of those things that they have to have a little more coordination. They got to work a little bit better together and just understanding, where each other's going to be. Because again, you need to make sure you've got an inside guy and an outside guy. You can't have two guys going into the same area.
And I know that you said like you don't regret any of the play calling or nothing, but like fans see, only four guys rush on third down, and they're wondering why don't they blitz more? Like I guess just what were you guys trying to do with only rushing four and having that,
We felt we had an opportunity to just rush four. We thought we could get the pressure we needed on the quarterback just rushing four. And that's the thing that you hope for, is to be able to do that so you can keep your coverage at 7 back there. I mean, and again, it's the other way around. If you blitz and you don't get there, and then everybody wants to know why, you bring in 5 or 6 guys.
Sure. Thank you.
Can you shed a little more light on what happened with Brandon right before halftime?
Yeah, on the interception, Brandon went in pursuit to get over there and to try and help make the tackle and make the stop on the interception. And when he got towards the sideline, because of it goes from turf to that whatever that plastic or rubber thing is, and he really couldn't stop. So he just kind of, his momentum carried him into the sidewall, and he hit it pretty good. And they just wanted to check him out and make sure he was all right. And that's why they took him inside just before the half to get a chance to double check and see that he's okay. And then everything turned out well enough that he was able to come back and play.
Yeah, good deal. And then starts of games, you guys have allowed touchdowns on your first drive. Is that a point of emphasis, or does that just get wrapped up in everything's got to be better?
Well, I think it is point of emphasis, but it is also everything's got to be better. It really does. That's the football team right now. We're not playing to our abilities. That's the thing that I think is probably hard for all of us, is we feel we're better than what we've shown, and obviously it's something that's got to improve.
Hey, Ron, when the team's in a tough spot and Fitz is out, who is the locker room, I think, looking to in terms of who's going to be the leader, to kind of lead them forward out of this mess?
I think they look at each other more so than anything else, and that's really what it's got to be. You can't always rely on one guy. You got to rely on each other. That's what makes a team so good, is that there's more than one leader.
And what is the key to responding, other than maybe fixing some of the things we've talked about? What is the key that you want to see this week in terms of them responding?
Well, I think more than anything else, to me, and I've said this, is let's just do our jobs. 11 guys doing one thing at a time, not one guy trying to do 11. That gives us a chance, I think, to compete and be successful.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Rhiannon. I don't think JP's on. Hey, Ron, I think you mentioned this to John's question. Maybe it was Nikki's. I can't remember. But you said that part of what needs to happen is that you all, as the coaches, have to help them along. What are some things that you feel like just through the first 3 weeks, you guys as the coaching staff could do to help this team a little bit better here?
Well, I think some of the things that we can do obviously is deciding, you know, about play calling. Some plays that, you know, we sit there and we say, God, I wish we could have called this or we could have. You can do a lot of those things. You can say what ifs, ands, or buts, but, you know, maybe a different call at that time might be a better call. Maybe a different personnel grouping might be a better personnel grouping. You know, so we'll just continue to look at what we can do and what we can do to help them.
And then I believe it was John's question. You said that you want Chase to get to the things that he does really, really well and just maximize that stuff. In your opinion, what are the things that cheishong does extremely well that he really needs to just kind of hone in on while some of the other stuff's being worked out?
Well, I think the first big part is his get off. When he's playing vertical and you know, getting through to his third step before he decides what he wants to do, I think he's a very disruptive football player. And sometimes I think he has a little stutter in one of his moves. And that to me is not what he does best, because the stutter, he's got to stop, start, and go again. And I'd much rather just see him keep going vertical, because when he is moving, he is a force, and he is difficult to stop.
Thanks, Ron. Appreciate it.
Wino.
Hey, Ron, you've mentioned Taylor Heineke kind of growing into being a starting quarterback. Are there elements of the game that you kind of understand as part of how he plays, the hustling for the extra yard, diving for the pylon? And are there parts of the game where you want to see him kind of make, I don't want to say smarter decisions, but decisions in more of a game manager way that you will see with more experience?
Yes, I'd like to see him do things in more of a game manager way. Sometimes that is really just taking what's given to you. You know, go ahead and throw the check down, go ahead and throw the jag or the drag, excuse me, or the slant, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to wait for the dig to get into that middle window, and then in the meantime, everything is closing around me as the quarterback. I'm going to go ahead and scramble out to my right, and I'm going to wait for the guy to come across. I'm going to throw across my body. You know, those are the things that you don't want to see him do, and take what's there in front of him. Again, it might be a simple check down on 3rd and 8, and give the guy a chance to catch it, turn, and run and see if he can pick it up. It doesn't have to have, you don't have to throw the ball to a receiver that's beyond the down marker, and that's some of the things that he has to understand as far as game management. You know, we'll make the right decision. You know, not the decision because it's hard, it's the decision because it's easy, but the right one. And if the right one's throwing the check down, we'll live with the check down. We'll live with the good decisions, the right decisions.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, Ron. You know, going into the game against Buffalo, you called it a measuring stick game.
Yep.
And I'm curious, you know, after looking at the tape, where are you on that measuring stick? And is it concerning of how much work you have to do, or the gap in between an upper echelon team like Buffalo and yourself?
Well, I think there's a little bit of a gap. I mean, if you go back and look at some of the things that happened offensively and some of the good things, you know, I'm a little disappointed that our first drive, in my opinion, was stopped by a call that I didn't think was the right call as far as calling pass interference. You know, because when you get a chance to watch it on tape, you see that the middle linebacker basically absorbs the guy that supposedly set the pick. Okay, and if you watch that play and you sit there and go, well, that's not pass interference, because the guy turned and absorbed him and took away a first down. So then the second one, unfortunately, we fumble the ball on a nice play. We hit the tight end through the middle, and he's picking up good yardage, but he fumbles at midfield, unfortunately. You know, so you settle down, you score some points. So offensively, we did some really good things. Defensively, we had our moments. You know, we really did, but what we didn't do is we didn't string them together. We were inconsistent in our play. Are we that far off? No, I don't think we are. I really don't. But I do know, to give ourselves an opportunity, chance to be one of those types of teams, we've got to play like one of those. We've got to play disciplined football all the way across the board on all 3 phases, and that gives us a chance to win football games. Yeah, we have a lot of talent. I get that, and I know a lot of people are expectations because of that talent. But as this talent is being worked and molded into a unit, into a team, we're gonna suffer some of these games. We're gonna go through this. If you play long enough, you will get beat like this, and that's just the way it is. But how you handle it, how you bounce back, that's what's important. That's how you learn, and hopefully our guys will learn and understand, that we have to do it a specific way to give ourselves a chance.
And Ron, I think there's a narrative out there, especially with this defense, and I think us in the media are guilty, and of course the fan base is. You look at last year and the quarterbacks they faced, this defense, not the marquee quarterbacks like that you're going to be facing this year in terms of Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes down the line. Do you believe that's an issue of the quarterback talent you're facing this year compared to last year?
No, because everybody's got to play everybody else. Okay, because if that was the case, then you sit here and you look at some of these teams and you say, God, they didn't earn that record. Look at who they're playing. That's not fair. Because everybody sits there and goes, oh well, you guys didn't deserve to be in the playoffs, but yet who played the world champs the best last year? See what I'm saying? I mean, we're the ones that everybody said, oh wow, you guys played against Tampa Bay better than anybody else in the playoffs. So that doesn't matter. Okay, what matters is how you play on Sundays. Okay, and right now we didn't play very well on Sunday. That's the only thing that truly matters. That's why they say in this league, any team can beat any team on any given Sunday. Why? Because it's about who plays the best during that game. You play best during that game, you're going to win the game. We didn't play at our best. They did. So we give them credit. They deserve to beat us because we did not play very well.